We are excited to have him with us today, talking about something that is very apropos, finishing big. So let's welcome Darren Hardy. Darren, great to have you. Take it away.
Well done. I appreciate that very much. Well, welcome everybody. This is very exciting. Thrilled to be with you. And I first want to say congratulations for qualifying to be part of the Success Club and getting the chance to be together. And also thank you for showing up and being part of this exclusive webcast, because it's not just about qualifying to win. It's also showing up and being part of this learning experience. So I have to tell you, I'm excited for you because I know how the ideas and insights that I'm going to share with you, how they've impacted my life. And I just sit here sort of buzzing with the idea of what this could do for your 2016. Your Sweet 16 could be greatly improved based on the information we're going to cover here tonight. I've only shared these insights once before, and it was with a private group, and what came out of that was truly extraordinary. I have to tell you, we talked about the compound effect and the entrepreneur roller coaster book. And in there, I share some of the insights that made me able to be successful at a very young age when I was in real estate. I was only 20 years of age. I mean, quite frankly, I had no business being in the real estate business and handling people's most valuable asset. And it was really what I'm going to share with you here tonight that made that success so early possible. And then from real estate, I went on and helped start a television network that broadcast what you see in Success Magazine, but it was done over satellite television. And it was actually a network marketing organization. And so I have been on the other side of this camera, sitting where you're sitting right now, and started with nothing. I was 23, 24 years of age at that time, and built an organization of 100,000 representatives. And my organization individually was doing about $50 million in revenue. And I only tell you that because it is also these insights that made a lot of that success possible. So I just kind of want to give you a glimmer of how important I think what I'm going to share with you tonight is going to be for you, your business, and your Sweet 16. So I hope you're ready. This is going to be kind of a fast-paced, very intensive workshop. Be sure you grab a notepad and a pen right now, because we're going to go through what I think are some very, very valuable insights very, very fast. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and move forward. First thing I need to ask you is for your permission. I'm going to push you a little bit here tonight, and I've been asked to come in and give you some mentoring. And I know that for me, some of the best transformative moments in my life was when somebody cared enough to not just congratulate and applaud me, but grab me by the shoulders and shake me a bit. Meaning, look, you're doing okay, but come on. You really could turn it on. You're capable of so much more. And so if we just start here with that baseline, we all know that you're doing well. You wouldn't be on this broadcast if you weren't already successful. But I'm going to challenge you with the idea that your current results are nowhere near what you're truly capable of achieving. Right now, where you're at is nowhere near what's possible for you if you just dug a little deeper, pushed a little harder, and went a little further to really unleash your greater potential. So I hope that where we're at right now is preparing you to finish this year big, and then also prepare you to have an extraordinary, the best ever year in 2016. It will be your Sweet 16, but I have to push you a little bit in order for us to get there together. So also I want to give you this promise. At the end of the webcast, I'm going to give you a gift from me to you, and this is just for you. This is just for Beachbody. This is just for the Success Club winners, and it's just for those that are on this webcast. Just a personal, no strings attached gift from me to you. All right, so stay to the end, and we can open up the gift together. All right, here's the pivotal question. What is it that separates winning from losing? What separates victory from defeat? What is between that great divide of those that win and those that lose? I think you're going to find that the answer is very different than what you think it is. A lot of people see those that end up on the cover of Success Magazine, or they see Olympic athletes, or they see some of the people who have reached the top ranks of this beautiful organization and think that the divide is significant, that the chasm between where they're at and what those people are doing day in and day out is significant. And in actuality, it's very, very little. Let me just tell you, it all comes down to this. It's always the final stretch that determines victory. It's the final seconds of a game or of a day that make the big difference. It's the final shots that are taken in the final minutes of a match, or the final effort that's given right at the end. In fact, if you look at the NFL, a lot of people don't realize this, but there are more points that are scored in the final 2 minutes of any game of NFL history than were scored the entire first and second half. And so it is always what happens in that final push. I was watching a football game last night, and the team had struggled for the entire game, and they were significantly behind. But in the last few minutes, they had 3 scores, and they tied the game in the final seconds. So even though for 90+% of the game, they struggled, they didn't play very well, they still came out victorious because of what happened in the final couple of minutes. If you look at baseball, it is those teams that can finish strong in the 9th inning that end up determining who the victors are when you add up all the scores and all the games from an entire lineage of many different seasons. It's who can finish strong in that 9th inning. If you look at retail or e-commerce sales, this is a phenomenon that we've seen over and over again, that 20 to 40% of all commerce is done the last 45 days of the year. That means that for 320 days, no matter what it is that you did for 320 days, it's going to matter what happens that last 45 days that will determine 20 to 40% of your entire year's outcome. That makes a difference between a winning year and a losing year, 20 to 40%. So here's what happens in life. Everybody starts New Year's resolutions. Everybody starts diet programs, right? Everybody starts fitness programs. How many of your customers have started on one of your great illustrious fitness programs that are proven to get phenomenal results, but don't see it through, right? A lot of people start prospecting programs. They start new date night regimens. They start new I'll be home by 6 and have dinner with the family routines, new habits, whatever. But success is not determined by what it is that you start. Success is only determined by what it is that you finish. In fact, if you want to tweet something, tweet that. Success isn't what you start, it's what you finish. And few finish. So I want to show you how to finish big, okay? How in the final 2 months of this year, how you could determine whether you have a victorious year or a losing year, or you know what, maybe a multiplier effect to your already successful year, and it's going to come down to the last 45 days. Let me give you an example. I had a friend who was a track star in high school and college, and he, in college, perpetually came in second place. Even though he was incredibly talented, he was always coming in second place, and he was frustrated and agonized over this and didn't know what it was that he was doing wrong. Well, one time, an Olympic coach had happened to be at his meet, and when he had finished, once again second, he found him passing by, and he says, "Young man, you want to know why you keep finishing second?" And he said, "Yeah, I want to know. I'm frustrated. I can't believe this keeps happening to me every time." And he says, "I can tell you what's happening." And he says, "Please, I'll do anything." He says, What's happening is in the final stretch, you look over your shoulder just a bit. And when you look over the shoulder is when you get outran." And he said, the key is in that final stretch, do nothing but look at the tape. You have to look through the tape and do nothing but focus all your energies at breaking the tape. Same thing goes on inside your yearly rhythm. You start getting into November, we come on, past Halloween, we start getting close to Thanksgiving, and certainly when we start getting into the December holidays, and you start becoming distracted. You start looking over your shoulder. You stop the momentum that you've created through that entire year by even just the slightest bit of distractions, when in actuality, that is the time that you have to finish. That is when you have to look through January 1st. Not over your shoulder whatsoever in order to finish strong. Well, he took that coach's advice, and ended up winning every match thereafter and ended up actually competing in the 1996 Olympic Games just because of that advice. Now, that advice hit home to me as well. And it's something that I think about when we start getting into this time of the year is don't look over my shoulder, okay? Don't celebrate victories too soon, and don't break the momentum that you've built up all year long, because right now, the finish, the final stretch is what matters the most. So you want to break the tape. So let me give you some, let's pause for a second, give you some mentoring advice. What I want to suggest that you do is to write down 5 potential distractions that you might encounter in the final stretch of the year that we are to finish. And then what your prevention plan is going to be. You know, it could be holiday parties, it could be family demands, it could be the weather. A lot of people, you get into the winter months and they start excusing a lot of their behavior and habits because of the weather. It could be your children's schedule. It could be that you're involved too much, right? You're signing up, you're volunteering for too many things. You're chairing too many parties and committees and the rest of that. And then what I want you to do is figure out how you can buffer, how you can delegate, how you can delete, how you can outsource, how you can call in reinforcements, how you can start saying no to some of these distractions, because the slight look over the shoulder in these final stretch moments, the moments that matter the most. Remember, 20 to 40% of all e-commerce happens in the last 45 days. Imagine if a retailer became distracted during those 45 days. That's when you have to double down, stay focused, keep the blinders on, and then go like heck. Those are the moments that end up mattering the most. So winning, let's talk about winning. The difference between extraordinary success and ordinary success, or mediocrity, is not that much. In fact, it only requires a little bit more. Let me give you an example. I think this is a prime example, personified in one sport, but lived out between those that appear on the cover of Success Magazine and the rest of the 7 billion population. It comes down to a little bit more. So right now, the number 1 golfer in the world is a guy by the name of Jason Day. He's number 1 in the world, okay? Number 10 is a guy by the name of Zach Johnson. Now, let's compare the statistics between these two players, the number 1 and the number 10 in the world. So right now, Jason Day's average shots per round in tournament play is 69.2 shots. Zach is 69.7. The difference between number 1 and number 10 is half a stroke. Now, you have to understand this. This is after over 100 official rounds, 10,000 plus golf shots, whether it's from the bunker, whether it's drives, whether it's hitting the fairway, whether it's putts. And the difference after 10,000 shots between 1 and 10 is less than 1 single stroke. Now, in its sheer statistic, I think that is phenomenal. But here's the outcome and how that matters. Right now, the number 10 golfer in the world has collected $4.8 million in prize money. Hey, not so bad, but it is by comparison to the number 1, who's received $9.4 million. So twice the money for only being half a shot better. Half a shot. And so what does that mean? That means that one of these guys has gone the little bit extra, which means that a little bit extra on the practice putting green, a little few more buckets of balls on the driving range, maybe just getting up a little bit earlier, or staying a little bit longer, or working and keeping his concentration and focus just a little bit more acutely. See, it's a little bit that determines twice the difference in results. So what I'm trying to impress upon you tonight is, in this final stretch of the year of 2015, as we move into 2016, I'm going to tell you, it's just a little bit difference now can multiply your results by comparison to all of your colleagues and contemporaries. So let's stop for a second and give you some mentoring about how to apply what it is that you just heard as an insight. I want you to write down 2 to 3 ways that you can do a little bit more. So we know that your few fundamentals are inviting and recruiting, right? We know that it's the product, using it and sharing it with others. And we know that it's the investment and work on your own personal development. So in those three areas, okay, as we're applying it to your Beachbody business, where can you do a little bit more? Where can you invite? Or where can you recruit just a little bit more? Where can you make sure that you're as disciplined in your own use and in your own sharing of the product with others? A little bit, not this fantastic all-out massive action campaign, a little bit more than you're doing normally. And then a little bit more in your own personal growth and development. So we all know that you have a couple of key tools to do this. I mean, Beachbody, the company, has done this incredible job of providing you these campaigns, these programs, sourcing the materials, and aligning themselves with all these fantastic people, and all you've got to do is to apply it. So one of the great campaigns you've got going on right now is the Fall Classic. So can you do a few more invites? Can you get together with your 3-person teams and do a few more shares? Because right now, these last 45, 60 plus days that you've got, this is going to be the time to make it all happen. We also know that you have another tool at your disposal in December, the new Hammer and Chisel program. And so what a great new fanfare that you can go and as an excuse to go talk to a few more people that you've talked to in the past about something new, fresh, and exciting that's happening in December. So those are some tools where you can apply this little bit more idea. All right, so in order to help you through this process, one of the things that I think is important is help you reframe the pain, reframe the idea of how you see pain. Because a lot of people see pain as something to avoid. And tonight, I want to convince you it's exactly the opposite, that pain is your friend, that the pain is what is necessary for you to separate yourself from everybody else and get the growth and get the results that you want in life. See, I was taught very early in life that pain is good. If you read The Compound Effect, you know that my father was the university football coach, and we had a Olympic weight set in our garage while I was growing up. And I woke hanging on our concrete garage floor every single morning. And on the garage wall was written Hardy Health Studio, and around it was no pain, was written Hardy Health Studio, and around it was no pain, no gain. And so it was a mantra that was basically seared into my brain early on, that pain is good because pain is what's required to create growth, right? I even have the t-shirt, no pain, no gain. Wear it proudly, and I wear it often. You see, pain is growth. We all know that if you want to build a muscle, the only way that you can build that muscle is putting it through excruciating pain. You're actually tearing the muscle fiber. You're breaking it down when you are working it out. And then in recovery, it comes back bigger than it was before. Now you can lift heavier objects than you could have before because you subjected the muscle to pain. Without pain, there's no growth. So I want you to see pain as the process and pathway towards growth. I also want you to see it as progress, each step. As you're climbing the mountain of success and it's getting harder and harder, the air is getting thinner, you are separating yourself from more and more people. You see, there's all sorts of people at the base of the mountain, but the higher you go, the fewer there are. And every step is separating you from everybody else. And you're moving from mediocrity, you're moving from ordinary to extraordinary. Every step moves you further up towards extraordinary. And then also, pain is victory. You see, you don't get to the top without going through those steps of pain, those steps of progress of pain. And so pain is victory. Look, if it were easy, everybody could do it. See, I like the fact when things are hard. I like it because if it were easy, I'd have all this competition to be crowded. But when things are hard, I win. Why? Because I'll do the hard stuff. I'll do the hard. And it's easier to separate myself when I realize that it's hard. So have what others do not. You have to be willing to do what others will not. You see? That's the reason why it's rarefied air. That's why there's so few people at the top. Because not that it's actually difficult, it's just that it's hard. It's not complicated, it's actually quite simple. But it's hard and it's painful. Hard. It's not complicated, it's actually quite simple. But it's hard and it's painful. And I think that's great. Why? Because you and me can get to the rarefied air. Why? Because we're willing to do what's hard and we're willing to go through what is pain. Pain is the dividing line between ordinary and extraordinary. To give it a very relevant example, we all know that when you're working out, let's say your workout calls for 12 reps, all right? And you do your 12 reps and you could be done and you could put it on the rack. But you know, everybody does 12, that's the program. And there's really no great growth in 12. Where the growth happens is in rep 13 and 14. And that struggling, almost crushing yourself with it, 15th rep. You see, the 12 before just got you to the table. Those are table stakes. Like when you're exercising, whatever your program calls for, that just gets you in the game. It takes you from a dead stop and builds your muscle up to where it already was before. It's not until you push it past its existing threshold that you actually get the growth. So I want you to understand that as well. Whatever's comfortable for you, whatever you're working really hard towards the day, table stakes. That's what everybody does. So don't worry about that. It's that 13th rep. It's that 14th rep. And maybe even that 15th that you really couldn't do but you got a little bit of extra help. Somebody spotted you and pushed you through that 15th rep. Those 3 reps are going to multiply the effect those 12 had before. Same thing is going on in your day, right? If you're prospecting and you're supposed to make 10 calls, good for you. Everybody makes 10 calls. But it's the 11th call when you've just gotten your gut kicked in, right? Your heart stomped on. Everybody else is crying, but you make the 12th call. Now, you're weary. It's late. There's not much, not many people available, but you make the 13th call. You see, those last 3 calls multiply the 10 that you made before because nobody's making those extra couple of few calls. It's not until you push past your pain threshold that you start getting the multiplier effect. So it's not much. It's only 3 versus the 10 that everybody else does. But it's that little bit more when you've moved past your pain threshold that matter the most. There's a great story about the famous coach, Lou Holtz. And his team was down 42-0 at halftime. And so what he did is he brought his team into the locker room and he showed them a film clip, a highlight reel of players making the extra effort, the dramatic extra last after the play with extra effort. And he told his players not on his team that they were on his team not because that they could give their all on every play. He said every player on every team gives their all every play. That's not why you're on my team. He said, you're on my team because you make that critical extra effort on every play. After you've done your best and you do a little bit more, that's why you're on this team. Well, he went on and his team went on to win in the second half, being down 42-0. You see, that's how you win. Not doing your best, doing more. A little bit more than your best. Doesn't have to be dramatic, but a little bit more ends up having a multiplier effect on your capabilities. You see, I call this living in the red line. We were talking before we started about taking spin class. And a lot of people, when they're in spin, let's say, they move themselves up to that point where it's part of their pain threshold, and then they back off a little bit, right? And then they go up, they feel their pain threshold, and they back off a little bit. My whole goal is to get to that red line and move into the red line. And so every spin session, I quantify how many times did I get in the red line and how long could I stay there. You see, a lot of people try to avoid becoming nauseous when they take spin class. I try to become nauseous as often or as many times as possible when I take spin class because it's in the red zone, only in the red zone, where results are actually magnified and multiplied. Same thing in life, okay? Getting to the red zone, everybody does that all day, every day. It's getting deep in the red zone, staying there as long as possible, right? You can't stay there forever, right? But just a couple extra beats in the red zone before you back down, that's where you start getting those fantastic results. So I want you to also see this mantra of no pain, no gain. Don't avoid pain. Don't skirt it. Don't try to stay below it, but actually pursue it and know that it's the pathway. It's the dividing line. It's the separating factor between you and everybody else. Every time I hit that wall, And you're supposed to hit the wall, right? Every time I hit that wall, I smile a little bit. I know, okay, I know somewhere my competitors are hitting this wall right now. And because I'm going to climb over it, it's going to become another separating factor. And so when you hit the wall, don't back off. Don't bounce off. Climb over it with a smile on your face saying, this is the pain dividing line between me and everybody else. That's why I will have what nobody else will have. So no pain, no gain. So to apply this for you here, let's talk about the measuring of this. How many times will you push yourself into the red line by end of year? You know that time when you're talking to new people and you got your gut kicked and you made your calls and you could call it a day and feel good about yourself, but you just push yourself into the red line a little bit, right? Or you're at the gym, you're doing your workout, you could kind of get away with, doing a decent, putting in your session, but how can you push yourself into the red line? A few extra reps, a little harder, a little faster, a little bit more intensity. I mean, this is the perfect organization to be talking to about that, right? With insanity and the rest of it. And then how many times are you going to push yourself into the red line per day by the end of the year? Quantify that for yourself, and that will start revealing for you the numbers that will unlock your great finish for 2015. All right, now let me give you some tangible strategies that you can use to 3x your result in the final days of 2015. It's what I call success compression. You see, you want to compress the amount of time and energy that you're spending in one area of focus. It's like launching a rocket ship. You have to pour an enormous amount of fuel, an enormous amount of energy in a concentrated period, in a concentrated area, in order to get the rocket ship just 3 feet off the ground. But once it actually gets into the atmosphere, you can drop the rockets, and with very little fuel and energy, it can take it the rest of the way to the moon. So the most amount of time and energy that is necessary is to just get something off the ground. And then if you can sustain it long enough to get it out into orbit, you can drop a lot of that energy and effort, and it will sail pretty easily the rest of the way to the moon. It's like with any project, okay? Anything that you want to sort of get a lot of results, it requires a focused amount of energy and effort in one area for a short, sustained period of time, and then you can get your goals up to the moon. So that's what I'm suggesting that you do in these final 45 days of 2015, is to act on this success compression. So let me give you 3 tips, okay? These are those 3 tips that I said that I applied when I was 20 years of age in real estate, and then when I was building my network marketing business as a young Turk and caused and created all that great success. It was really these 3, right? So don't go around sharing these with too many other people, all right? Here's number 1. You want to prioritize yourself for profitability. In these final days, in these final hours of this year, it's super critical where you allocate your time and focus. You have to identify the projects, the people, the products, the messages that will have the most leverage and potential for big outcome during the final march towards December 31st. So here's what I want you to assess. Who has the greatest need based on going into the period of the holidays, or because it's the end of many people's fiscal years, or because of the way that people want to prepare themselves for taxes. So just think, these are ways to initiate conversations. Based on the holidays and the way that people fall off their diets and end up stacking up and their weight, and then they go wearily into the next year way behind the starting line, have the conversation about creating a focused, more disciplined plan because of the holidays, or because of those people who are finishing their fiscal year, preparing for taxes, the opportunity to become an entrepreneur, to initiate their business in this year so that they are set up for 2016 to take advantage of all the tax strategies and benefits for being a sole proprietor, an independent contractor, and an entrepreneur. Those are ways to have a conversation that is relevant to finishing the end of the year, that matters to the person that it is that you're talking to. So you just want to prioritize your typical list that you're talking to, change the focus of the conversation that's relevant to the calendar, and for those that have a greater need based on those types of conversations as well. So that's the mentoring that I want to offer you here on this first idea, is just to prioritize your list. Instead of talking to everybody about everything all the time, I want you to take a look at, we got 45 days left of the year. Who has the greatest need? What conversations are going to matter the most to which people? Prioritize your list so that you can focus your time. Okay, this is that critical period where you can multiply every hour that you spend in the last 45 years can have a multiplier effect if applied to in the right direction. Okay, so be very careful about who you're talking to, where you're spending your time in these final 45 days. Number 2 is this: build your bank. It's true, during the holidays, everybody else is not as focused. Whether you're focused or not sometimes doesn't matter, but a lot of other people are not focused on their health, they're not focused on their business, they're not focused on creating and getting started in a new opportunity. So you can match the market. You can leverage this time of the year for its benefits and its strengths. I call that building your bank. Stephen Covey equated relationships with like emotional bank accounts, in that you want to always be doing what you can to make deposits in that emotional bank account, so that you're walking into January 1 of 2016 flush with cash, right? So think about those people that matter the most to you, and how you can make as many emotional deposits during the Thanksgiving timeframe, through the Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and winter solstice, whatever it is for you. Those are great times to start making some of those emotional deposits. So here's what I want you to do. Identify your dozen, okay? Your dozen most important prospects. You know those that are on your Dream 50 list, those that you always wanted in your Beachbody business? I want you to just go and make a ton of emotional deposits into those relationships, even if it doesn't have an agenda. You're not selling anything, you're not talking about anything, just emotional deposits, just giving, just loving, right? Customers, those who are already with you, consuming your great products and services, I want you to just identify your your best customers and just make emotional deposits with them during this last 45 days. Promotions, we talked about the Fall Classic, we talked about the Hammer and Chisel, great things for you to identify, and then identify the people that you think would be most interested through the Fall Classic, most interested in the Hammer and Chisel promotion. Create a focus list of a dozen, and then go and have those productive, very specific conversations. And then also your existing team members, those that are already on your team, great time to do some of that fellowship, to make those emotional deposits, to create that professional sports team feel. So make those emotional deposits by prioritizing who are the top dozen most important people on your team, and then proactively, thoughtfully go out and start making some investments. So here's the mentoring that I want to give you to activate on that key tip idea, the number 2 idea. Identify your dozen, and then simply just go love on them. Make your emotional deposits. Stack your bank accounts. Get them flush with cash so that when you walk into 2016, you've got lots of deposits in lots of different directions. And then number 3, and this is the big one, okay? This is the one that can really separate you from everybody else. This is how you get a huge jump on your competition. So as I mentioned to you, this is what I used when I was in real estate, and it can work for you and it can work for you in your business. I acquired more new listings and generated more new escrows in the month of January than many did the entire year. Within the first 2 weeks, I did more business than most did for the entire year. And a lot of people went, how in the heck have you done all this in 2 weeks? See, they thought it was what I did in January that made the difference. They saw the results in January, but it had nothing to do with what I did in January. It had to do with what I did these 45 days before, when they were lackadaisical, enjoying the holidays, eating too much, slacking off, procrastinating, too many parties, looking over their shoulder, being distracted in the most critical time of the year. That's when I was covertly, without anybody even knowing, setting myself up for huge gains when the calendar flipped over, okay? And frankly, the key idea is just doing the opposite of what everybody else does these last 45 days of the year. See, I'm pretty much an anti-conformist. You tell me what the rules are, I'm probably going to do the opposite. You tell me where people are going, that's not the place I'm going to go. You tell me what's popular, that's not what I'm going to order. So I'm an anti-conformist, and I have found that many of the most successful people that we presented on the pages of Success Magazine, or that history illuminates as one of the most important people that has pushed human progress forward, are also anti-conformists. I mean, we got a guy that's running for president right now, and the only thing he's running on is being an anti-establishment, right? I mean, just look at the people that are on the screen, and you'll see that these were anti-conformists, and it's actually what was part of their greatness. So, you want a great tip to success? Just figure out what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. Because if what they were doing worked, it wouldn't be called the masses, right? It wouldn't be called average. It wouldn't be called mediocrity. So figure out what's popular and what everybody else is doing, and doing the opposite is going to be a better chance of success than anything. And so here's the way I look at it, right? Doing the opposite. Like, I never go to a store on the evenings or weekends. Like, why would you do that? Why would you go to the store when everybody else is in the freaking store, right? Or how about, like, you really want to commit emotional and psychological suicide? Go to Costco on the weekends. Do that. Like, who goes to Costco on the weekends? I don't care if you are out of food. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. You don't ever go to Costco on the weekends, right? And see, I don't ever go on vacation during the season of that location. I don't go to Europe when it's the high season. I certainly don't go on a cruise when it's high season. I find whatever it's high season, I go on the opposite of that. And you know what? All of a sudden, all the restaurants are clear. Everybody's happy. They're more delighted and grateful that you're there. You're not just a number. You're not just part of the sheeple that are just filling up their space, and everybody's aggravated. So that's what's called being an anti-conformist. So what I want you to do, given this advice, is in December, what does everybody do? They become lackadaisical. They start falling off their diets. They start falling off their prospecting routines. They get distracted, right? So I just want you to do the opposite. And this is how you get way ahead of everybody else. So here's what you do. Take the last 45 days and get yourself fully booked for January. You see, I get it. Everybody else, whether you and I are disciplined and focused during December, people might not be like us. So they might not be ready to start their great diets in December. They might not be ready to start their business in December. Those that are, bring aboard, get them going, okay? But there's going to be a big percentage of those people who are going to say, yeah, well, maybe after the first of the year, talk to me then. Maybe I'll relook at it. I got the Christmas going, I got the family, I got people coming in. And those are all legitimate excuses, if you accept those as legitimate excuses. But they're real for them, okay? So fine, set appointments January 1 forward. Like, put it on the books right now. Hey, I know you're busy with your holidays right now, but let's set an appointment. Let's do a party. Let's set up a time. We got a meeting coming up. Set your meetings, set your parties, that in that early January, and then just start booking people to be part of that now. It's easy for somebody in November or December to say, yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be there. Great. Let's pull up write it in. And then when the time comes up, they're already committed to that process. See, this is what I did in real estate. People weren't willing to put their house on the market in December because they got their family coming and it's all dressed up for the holidays and so forth. Totally legitimate. But I made appointments to meet with them starting in early January to look at listing their house or to look at what they wanted to buy or where they wanted to move. And so I spent the latter part of November and all of December doing nothing but just jamming my appointment book, that when the gun went off on January 1, I was fully booked. And that's what you want to have happen. When Monday the 4th rolls around, it's bang, and you are in a full sprint. The worst thing you could possibly do is to walk into January with an empty calendar. That's the worst thing you could do. In fact, if you want just a little side nugget here, the worst thing anybody does for personal productivity is to walk into their day with an empty calendar or an appointment at 3 and maybe something at 10:30 and something got to do at dinner. And then all this gap. Now, what happens is they're going to run around like a crazy person all day long. It's not they're not going to be busy, but because these are the only appointments they have on their calendar, they're going to be busy responding to other people's requests and other people's agendas. So they'll go home weary and tired, but it will not be for anything that they did productively to accomplishing their own goals. You see, when you don't have yourself booked, you are open to responding to whatever happens to show up. And so it's like walking into your day as a boat without a rudder. Whatever wind comes or current is under that boat is the direction it's going to take the boat. Same thing when it comes to a new year. You've got to have your calendar laid out, all your appointments preset, so that when the gun goes off, it is a full sprint. And you're not just wondering, you're not just waking up, rubbing your eyes on January 4th and 5th going, okay, what are my goals? What do I need to do? Where do I need to go? What? You'll do that for 2 or 3 weeks. And you know what? The successful, they will already have cleaned your clock. They'll be so far ahead of you, you want to be able to see the back of their butt because they have entered the year in a full sprint. So let me just give you a couple of key ideas on how to get a running start so that when the gun goes off, it's January 1 or 4th, whenever you decide to wake up and get into the new year, then you can start it in a full sprint. So as I mentioned to you, don't walk into year with an empty calendar. So here's how to prepave your runway. This is how to organize your calendar going into the beginning of the year. First off, block out the times that you're going to dedicate to working. Okay, so that you've got those already chunked off your calendar. Just block it off in chunks. Then I want you to schedule your workouts, your personal time, and the priorities that you have for your life have to be scheduled. What doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. I know you love your family, but if they're not on your calendar, you're not going to be spending time with them. If the workout is not on your calendar, there's so many ways that you can excuse or things can show up unexpectedly that will have the workout be diminished and then probably not done at all, right? Everybody knows that experience. So put it on your calendar. And I'm not just talking about the next workout. I'm talking about all your workouts for January. Then also, I want you to block out time for social and family. You're a human being. Live like a human being, for crying out loud. Everybody claims that, that they love their family and their family is the most important priority and so forth. But if it doesn't appear on their, look, whenever I want to assess what somebody's values are, what they really care about, all I do is I pull out their calendar and their checkbook. Because where you spend your time and where you spend your money, that's what you really value. Not what you say. People say what they value all the time. I value my relationship with God. I value my kids. I value my spouse. I value my health. But let's cut through it. Let's look at your calendar. Where did you actually spend your time? And where did you actually spend your money? Because that's what you truly do value. So in order to start reorganizing what you say with what it is that you do, you got to get it on the calendar. Okay? So you schedule your workouts. You schedule the personal time with friends, people you care about, that you've lost touch with, or you only keep in touch on Facebook, which is not a relationship. Schedule time to be together, schedule time to be with your family. And then the last part of that is schedule the mental time, the personal development. One of your 3 priorities here in this organization, your mental, personal growth and development time. So here's the mentoring. Book your workouts, your romance time, your family time, your social and recreation time, your spiritual time, or quiet time, meditation time, prayer time, whatever you want it to be for you, and your personal development time. Get it booked all the way through January. If you're good, you do it all the way through the first quarter of the year, but at least get that 30-day runway so that when you go from December 31st, you peel a page off, it's January 1, you can run because you know exactly where to go. All you have to do is connect the dots. Then I want you to schedule your planning time. See, people don't actually schedule enough planning time where they're assessing their goals, where they're at, where they need to review, where they need to improve, and then your leadership time, the amount of time that you need to invest in your team as you're growing and building a thriving high-performance team. And then you fill the rest in with prospecting and client appointments, okay? There's plenty of room left after all those things that I've talked to you about before. But I want you to prioritize what you value, what you say you value, first. Get it on your calendar. And then you fill the rest of the time in with prospecting and client appointments. And then when you wake up on January 1, there's There's no room for fudging. There's very little flex in your schedule because it's all pre-laid out. You have a runway pre-paved. Now you can just launch. All right. Now, going back to your mental for a second here, I just want to, as publisher of Success Magazine, a guy committed to personal growth and development, I've got to stop here for a second and give you a little extra input and value on the idea of how to invest and how to grow the mental side of your business. And I'm going to do it by giving you the answer to a question I'm asked most often. If I were to say, what is the best advice I've ever been given? I get that question all the time on radio and news articles and the rest of it. Best advice anybody's ever given me, I'm going to give you the answer to that question. So before I do that, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick what is your number one goal for 2016, whatever it is, okay? Number one goal for 2016, not your 3, not your 10, not your 50, not your bucket list, not the 1,000 places you need to see before you die. The number one goal that if you hit this goal, oh my God, it would make it the best year of your life, okay? Like unquestionably, if you did that, 2016, Sweet 16, forever will be burned in the legend and legacy of your life as the big one thus far, okay? Number one goal, that's number one. Number two is, what's the number one skill you need to have or improve or to master in order to achieve that one goal? Okay, so we're just narrowing down where we're going to focus our attention in building the mental side of your business. Number one goal, number one skill. And then this is the best advice I was ever given. You don't actually achieve goals. You see, my mentor, Jim Rohn, said, you can't achieve what you haven't before if you're the same as you've always been. See, in order to achieve something you haven't before, you have to grow into it. You have to become something you have not been yet. So you don't achieve goals, you grow into them. And so the best advice I was ever given was from Brian Tracy. And he said, okay, I was 18 years old. If every dollar that you make from this point forward, I want you to cut out and carve out 10%, and I want you to use it to tithe to help other people. We've heard of that. It's an ancient tradition, right? Tithing to help less fortunate people with 10% of your income. Fantastic, wonderful. If you do that, great. If you don't, great. He said, now, I want you to take another 10% for every dollar that you make from this point forward, and I want you to carve it out, and I want you to tithe it to help yourself. And I want you to reinvest it in your personal development. And so he said, look, if you do that, I guarantee you there's a 30 to 1 return on investment over time. He says there's not anywhere else that you can go and get that kind of return. You can't get that return in the stock market. You can't get it in real estate. You can't get it in commodities. You can't get it in metals and in precious stones, but you can get it by investing it in yourself. So before you fund your 401k, you fund your savings retirement plan, fund yourself. Reinvest it in your personal development. So right now, if you take your income goal for 2016, what is 10% of it? Want to make $100,000? That's 10 grand. Want to make $250,000? That's 25,000. Want to make $500,000? That's 50,000. Whatever 10% of it is, that is your new personal development budget. And so figure out how you're going to invest that in you starting now so that you can accomplish what you've not been able to accomplish before in 2016 by growing into your goals. This organization here provides you tons of tools and resources in order to grow yourself, but never shirk the idea of investing the money that it takes to grow yourself, right? Jim Rohn would say, never ask what something costs, right? What does a book cost? 25 bucks. You know, what does a training course cost? $500. Or what does a seminar cost? $10,000. Don't ask what something costs. Ask what it's worth. Because the cost of the pages and the ink costs very little, but what it's worth could be invaluable. It could be priceless. It could help propel you to heights you couldn't even see in the moment of now over the horizon. Look, I stand before you tonight. 1 semester of college under my belt. I was raised in a dysfunctional family. I was raised by a single university football coach, Neanderthal kind of guy, right? I'm from the other side of the tracks. The only reason why I'm able to share with you here tonight is because of that advice when I got when I was 18 years old, taking 10% of every dollar that I ever made and reinvested it in my personal development. See, at that time when I was 18 years old, I wanted to make $100,000 that year, right? Pretty big goal for an 18-year-old. So I took 10 grand and I invested it in my personal development. That year I made $150,000. The next year, I wanted to make $250,000. So I took $25,000 and tried to figure out how I could go to seminars and workshops and hire coaches and mentors. And I superseded that goal. And it's been many years since 18 years of age. And every year I've done that. And every year I've made more money each year than I've made the year prior. And I attribute it to this one piece of advice. You see, while I might have one semester of college, I am the most learned person I know. I mean, I've spent it as a professional for the last 20 years. All I do all day, every day is curate personal growth and development content. So I've got an advantage into, it's not something I do on the side, it's something that I do 24/7, 365. But it's also something that I do for me, not just as a profession, but in my own personal growth and development. And so that's why I can be with you here tonight. That's why I can point to the results that I've got. Not because any heritage, any background, any DNA, any special talents or skills or abilities that I came into this thing with. Certainly no, academic background. It's because of this one piece of advice. All right. So given that you are of growth mindset, learning mindset, I want to give you that gift that I promised to you here at the beginning of the workshop. Again, this is just for Beachbody and this is just for you. And I want to help you achieve your goals in 2016. I care about Beachbody. I love this organization. I love what you guys stand for. I mean, it's a high-performing organization. You guys walk your talk. You're trying to help people become healthier, and you're trying to provide them a vehicle where you can help other people seek their financial freedom, to give them their choice for their financial future, to become entrepreneurs. We share the mission together. I mean, my mission is to onboard 10 million new entrepreneurs over the next 3 years who succeed. Your mission is the same. So if I can help you be successful, then you help me be successful, and you help reach a lot more people. So the goal achieving program that was given to me by a mentor that I met, actually was part of that investment in the personal development, shared his system for achieving goals with me 20 plus years ago. And I've used it ever since. And it's created millions, at this point, tens of millions of dollars for me. And I just want to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you as a gift. So you can download the PDF version of the journal. It'll give you an achievement management system. So it'll help you track day to day, week to week, to keep you on track. So you can figure out what your 2016 is going to be like. See, a lot of people don't know how to actually set the right and proper goals, that are focused in the right areas of their life, and looking at some of the areas where they're strong and look at some of the areas where they need to build, so that you can build what is called the wheel of life, to have a holistic success in life. And so it'll help you set them, but more importantly, because a lot of people write their goals, stick it in a drawer, and that's the end of it. It'll help you achieve them. So the step-by-step process. And so no strings attached. This is just for you, for your webcast. This is one of the things that I thought about last night. And so I had my assistant organize a way to get it to you. And so you just go to livingyourbestyourever.com, and it's just for Beachbody, and it's only going to be there for the next 48 hours because I don't want everybody on the web to discover this and so forth. But if you go there, you can download the PDF of the entire year program and the audio companion that goes along with it. It's a 4 or 5 CD set that walks you through and guides you all along the way. And that is just a little extra gift from me to you. We're in this mission together to try to help people become healthier and help them become financially solvent as a result of becoming entrepreneurs. And so hopefully you'll put it to good use. All I ask for in return is at the end of 2016, let me know how it went. How did that tool, that resource help you produce fantastic results? And then also, many of you probably already know that I can be with you every single morning at Darren Daily. It's totally free. It's my whole philanthropic effort to try to take these less than 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week, 260 times a year, where I can help you level up your success and transform your life. You know, those little moments of improvements compounded over time that produce those fantastic, massive results. And so just go to darrendaily.com and you can receive the email or text every morning. And that way you and I can day-to-day march through 2016 and do something fantastic together. So hopefully you've enjoyed our time here together tonight. Hopefully something struck you and you're really ready to finish big. Now's the time. I mean, it's happening regardless. The next 45 days are going to happen, and it doesn't require anything completely extraordinary. It's just a little bit more. It's a little bit more. Those final few extra things that you do can have multiplying effects because of this critical time of the year. So I hope you execute on the ideas that we talked about, And I look forward to seeing your outcomes and the fantastic success that comes out of Beachbody in 2016. It's been a delight to be with you. Good night.
All right.
Unmute them.
Let me unmute everybody here and we'll have a little
And
debriefing
stop recording.
chat session here. Oh, people were chat. Hold on a sec.